Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Sree here again. I have to tell you, I absolutely love what I'm learning about how the different connections between seemingly disparate things, right? So I started off by reading and explaining to you this whole this book, which is only an audiobook that Dr. Seigel has created, called The Neurobiology of We, which is all about how our development from childhood impacts how we relate with each other. And that's where this whole discussion about what is implicit memory, how does the hippocampus affect it, how does an implicit memory, when processed through the hippocampus and and connected, like when the left and right lobes are connected, how it becomes an autobiographical memory that has a timestamp to it, and how that is how we make sense of the world, right? And between the ages of 0 to 18 months, we don't have the hippocampus that is actually active. And so everything is just going in as if it is truth. Between the ages of 18 months and about 4 to 5 years, the hippocampus is beginning to become active and beginning to create connections, so that we are able to then kind of say that this thing happened to me at this time. We are able to create explicit autobiographical time-stamped memories. It is important to know two things. One is that a lot of kids do have something called childhood amnesia, which he describes as the fact that once the hippocampus is fully active, let me just connect my computer. Once the hippocampus is fully active, then a lot of kids do not remember anything that happened between the ages of 0 and 7. So childhood amnesia is a very normal, a common thing that happens to all of us. However, if there is trauma, right, and we know that there is, I think about 25-30% of the population experience some kind of trauma when they're growing up. When there is trauma, what happens is that there are two ways in which the hippocampus shuts off, right? One is if it's a really stressful situation and there is a lot of secretion of adrenaline and cortisol, the hippocampus shuts off, because that is not the time to make connections. That is the time to know how to react to the situation that you're in. That is a time of survival. The other way in which the hippocampus is shut off, which is also during the time of extreme trauma, is when you disassociate. So the example he gives is of a young woman being raped, right? When she's being raped and she decides to not focus on what is happening to her, but she sees, for example, a flower growing out of the concrete there, and she decides to focus on that flower and maybe creates an image of a field of flowers, which is what he talks about. She does not remember the rape. She does not remember the hippocampus is not activated because the focus is divided. And the active focus is on something that you want, that is a way of coping, that you're looking specifically at something else. You're disassociating yourself from that moment. So that then becomes an implicit memory that has not been processed through the hippocampus. And then in either of these situations, what happens is that for example, if this young woman sees that flower, or maybe she's in a relationship and her boyfriend or her significant other brings her that same flower that she used to disassociate herself with, she could go into a frenzy and not know why she went into a frenzy, because that memory has not been processed. It has not been made into an explicit, autobiographical, transparent memory that says, this happened to me at this time. Once again, I'm going to pitch EFT here, because EFT is a very effective way, and there are a lot of what we call gentle techniques through which we can help a person who has gone through something that traumatic to gently bring it into explicit memory and make it a non-triggering event. And in order to do that, you do have to be able to, as Dr. Seigel says, to be able to create a narrative, to be able to have a narrative around that episode, and recognize the physical emotions and feelings that are associated with that event, and remove the trigger, the power that memory has for you. It's not that you will forget it. It is that it will stop being something that throws you into either a state of flooding or into a state of chaos. And your behavioral reactions to something like that, to seeing that flower, will be manageable, will not be something mysterious that makes you think that you're going crazy. Why would I react like that to that flower? So it is important to, if there is anybody who's listening who is going through something like that, that you get to a person who can work with you in order to work through that. I just recently, so let me go back to what Dr. Dispenza says, right? What is the book that I'm quoting from here is called Getting Over the Habit of Being Yourself. Now, what is that habit? The habit is the memory. And I think that is brilliant. I mean, I love the fact that all of these books that have come into my life are showing me how all of these things tie together. And so he says that one of the things that he said is that, we talked last time about how everything that you experience is recorded as a memory, right? It's recorded as, this is a physical memory, like it is a neural pathway that is created in your brain about your relationship to your boss has a particular neural pathway. Your relation to your spouse has a particular neural pathway. So all of those things have pathways that have been created. So he says every day as you see the same people, your boss, for example, and your spouse and kids, you do the same things, drive to work, perform your daily tasks, do the same workout, go to the same place, your favorite coffee shop, the grocery store you frequent, and your place of employment, and look at the same objects, your car, your house, your toothbrush, even your body, your familiar memories, right? This is what ties Dr. Seigel in with Dr. Dispenza. Your familiar memories related to your known world, remind you to produce the same experiences. So we've understood how the explicit and implicit memories are created. And what Dr. Dispenza is saying is that we know that, and we also know that the neurons that fire together wire together, right? So when we are repeating the same things and we have those memories within us, we react in the same way. And when we react in the same way, we create the same experience in our lives. So the point of getting over the habit of being yourself is to be able to recognize what your physiological reactions are to in all of these relationships that you may want to change. And if you want to change them, what you need to do is to rewrite these memories. And again, EFT is an extremely, I like to use meditation and EFT together because the way I take my clients through meditation, it helps them kind of come into their bodies, which then helps EFT become much more powerful, because once you're in your body, you're able to figure out where is this sensation, physiological reaction to something that I don't want in my life, where does it live? And so once we have that, then we are able to use EFT to really go back to the event that created this in the first place and dissolve that memory, and then really create a memory to step into. So there, he goes on to say, you may not think that your environment and your thoughts let me start again. You may not think that your environment and your thoughts are that rigidly similar and your reality so easily reproduced. Let me repeat that again. You may not think that your environment and your thoughts are that rigidly similar and your reality so easily reproduced. But when you consider that your brain is a complete record of your past and that your mind is the product of your consciousness, in one sense, you might always be thinking in the past. And by responding with the same brain hardware that matches what you remember, you are creating a level of mind that is identical to the past. Because your brain is automatically firing existing circuits to reflect everything that you already know and have experienced and thus can predict. A sidebar here. One of the reasons that we are afraid of success is because we are terrified of stepping into a space that we don't know how to deal with. Let me share something. So I might have told you already that I lost my mother in a plane crash when I was 19. And that happened just about a year after my father, who had been trying various businesses, suddenly became extremely successful. We became well-to-do people. We bought our own apartment. We had this huge, beautiful apartment. And we were able then so we got into that space. But at the same time, I had a brother who was getting into drugs and alcohol, and I had another brother who had found his own bride, which about 55 years ago in India was a stressful thing. As a result of that, I remember so clearly my mom's telling me, I know how to deal with not having money. I know, I have experienced and thus can predict what to do when we don't have enough money. I do not know, because I have not had the experience of these kinds of stresses. The truth is that she died within 6 to 7 months of that. And so it is very reasonable to know that you are terrified of change, that it is much more comfortable to be in this space which you know how to deal with. So I want you to think about that. The other book that I want to share with you is this book that Dan Kennedy and his colleague have written about 10x is easier than 2x, right? That's a business book. Dr. Siegel's book is almost entirely about interpersonal relationships and how to build them and how to grow them. And Dr. Dispenza's book is all about how to create change within yourself in order to manifest a different life. The amazing thing is that all of them have a common theme. And I will get into this more next week,